Okay, imagine stepping back, way back, into an ancient desert kingdom. It's hot, dusty, and then this wind kicks up.
Yeah.
Not just sand, but it feels ominous. It brings this whisper of famine, the shadow of locusts.
And people knew what it was, or, who they thought it was.
Pazuzu, this terrifying-looking demon,
Yeah.
right? Dog-like face, bulging eyes, scales, eagle feet, scorpion tail. I mean, the works.
Absolutely grotesque by design. He's the embodiment of that kind of primal fear, a force of pure devastation.
But here's the really wild part. This same image, this terrifying figure, was put onto amulets.
Right.
People wore them, put them in their houses. Why? To ward off other evils. It's what's a paradox, isn't it?
It really is. And that complexity, that duality bringer of destruction, yet also a protector, that's absolutely key to understanding him back then.
It tells you a lot about how they saw the world, maybe. Grappling with forces they couldn't control.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
That duality is,
Yeah,
it's something. But this is where the theory we're diving into today really kicks off.
Yep.
Because what if, according to this pretty chilling conspiracy theory, Pazuzu isn't just some dusty old myth?
right. What if he's not just a story?
What if this entity, or, the forces he represents, aren't just real, but have been pulling strings behind the scenes? Like, for millennia.
Subtly guiding things towards chaos, conflict, despair.
Yeah. And what if dismissing all this ancient stuff as just mythology isn't just, scientific progress? What if it's actually a cover-up?
Like someone doesn't want you to know.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's what this deep dive is all about. We're unpacking the Pazuzu, the ancient demon's enduring influence, and global chaos conspiracy theory.
We'll look at the mythology, where he came from.
Definitely. And then the really chilling claims about him still being around, influencing things now.
Plus the so-called evidence people point to.
And of course, the counter-arguments, the more mainstream explanations, and maybe try to figure out why this kind of theory grabs people,
Okay, let's ground ourselves first. Where did Pazuzu actually come from? Mesopotamian mythology, right?
Yep. That's the one. Specifically, Assyrian and Babylonian times. We're talking roughly 9th to 6th centuries BC. A long time ago.
And his job title back then.
Well, he was known as the king of the evil wind demons, particularly the southwest winds.
And those winds were bad news.
Oh yeah, they were directly linked to drought, famine, locust swarms, basically everything that could wreck the Fertile Crescent.
Oh, the cradle of civilization. So he was tied to really catastrophic natural disasters from the get-go.
Absolutely. Life or death stuff.
And his look, it's just unforgettable, isn't it? Partly thanks to, that movie.
The Exorcist, yeah. Can't really talk about Pazuzu without mentioning it.
But even before that, the ancient depictions were super specific. That grotesque face, dog-like or lion-like bulging eye.
Scaly body, scorpion's tail, those big eagle talons for feet, and often 4 huge bird-like wings. It screams malevolence.
It really does.
And there's this interesting detail with his hands, too. Usually the right hand is raised up and the left hand is pointing down.
What's that about?
Well, interpretations vary, but a common one is life and death. Or maybe creation and destruction. It reinforces that duality we talked about.
That even something destructive might have another side, or represent a balance.
Exactly. It's a more complex picture than just demon bad.
Which brings us back to that terrifying duality, the protector thing. How does a demon known for famine end up on a protective amulet?
It sounds nuts, but it was a kind of fight fire with fire logic,
Okay.
See, there was another demon, Lamashtu, a female figure, and she was arguably even more feared on a personal level.
What did she do?
She was believed to attack pregnant women, snatch newborns, cause miscarriages, crib death, sickness in babies, real nightmare fuel for parents.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So the thinking was Pazuzu, as this powerful king of evil spirits, might be strong enough to actually drive away Lamashtu.
So you invite one monster in to keep a worse one out.
Pretty much. You'd put a Pazuzu amulet or a little statue near pregnant women, near babies, hoping he'd basically scare off the competition.
Like cosmic pest control.
Sort of, yeah. It's like hiring the biggest gangster to protect your shop.
And some of these amulets even had inscriptions, right?
Yeah.
Like that one, I am Pazuzu, son of Hanpa, king of the evil spirits.
Yeah, exactly. Who comes forth from the mountains and rages thereby. It's like his demonic resume, making his power clear.
No messing around.
None at all. But then, fast forward a few thousand years, and boom, The Exorcist. Blatty's book in 71, the movie in 73.
And suddenly everyone knows Pazuzu, or at least a version of him.
Right. He becomes the archetype of ancient possessing evil for the modern world. pulled right out of relative obscurity into the mainstream consciousness.
So summing up the history, complex, dualistic figure, destructive force of nature, but also a kind of magical shield.
That's the ancient picture, yeah. But for the conspiracy theorists, he's far from ancient history. He's not dormant at all.
Right. This is where it gets really dark. The core idea is Pazuzu is real, like literally real.
Yes, not just a myth, but an actual active entity. Some theories say he's interdimensional.
Interdimensional, meaning?
Existing on another plane, another vibrational level maybe. Invisible to us most of the time, but able to interact with our reality.
Like a non-physical intelligence.
Yeah.
Ancient, powerful, and nasty.
That's the idea. And his role isn't just random destruction. He's seen as embodying and amplifying the worst parts of human nature.
Greed, violence, fear, despair.
Yeah.
All that stuff.
Exactly. He acts like a dark influencer, pushing humanity towards self-destruction.
And that old duality, the protector bit, how does that fit the theory?
That gets reinterpreted as pure deception.
Oh.
The theory goes, he causes lesser evils or allows them, then steps in offering protection.
Ah, like a protection racket.
Precisely. In exchange for fear, maybe even worship, or just by keeping the chaos going, he solidifies his grip. It's a long con.
And this ties into a larger Pazuzu agenda, right?
Yeah.
Driving humanity towards total chaos.
Yeah, proponents see his hidden hand everywhere. They look at history, the endless cycles of war, genocide, major conflicts.
And they say it's not just human failure, it's him amplifying it, orchestrating it.
Yep. Subtly, yeah. Pushing things along to maximize suffering, maximize chaos.
What about his original gig? Famine and disease.
They take that literally, too. That he, or maybe agents working for him, actively contribute to outbreaks, famines, even environmental disasters, anything to weaken humanity, make us despair.
It's like a systematic attack.
That's how it's framed. And it extends to our minds and souls, too.
How?
Promoting nihilism, materialism, making people reject spiritual values. The idea is this makes us easier to control, less likely to resist.
Or vulnerable.
Exactly. And then there's the alleged psychic or energetic manipulation.
Okay, now we're going deeper.
The theory suggests he, or his minions, can subtly influence thoughts, emotions, even dreams, planting negative ideas, fostering paranoia, division.
Making people miserable and afraid.
Right. And this is where it connects to other esoteric ideas they supposedly feed on that negative energy, sometimes called loosh.
Loosh, like emotional energy.
Yeah, the idea that certain entities sustain themselves on human suffering, fear, negative emotions. It's found in some Gnostic texts, archon theories. It's a recurring concept in these circles.
Wow. Okay. And just like Lamashtu back in the day, does this theory say Pazuzu targets specific people?
Yes, very much so. The vulnerable, children, people with mental illness, the spiritually weak.
Why them?
Easier targets, maybe, to cause madness, possession, or drive them to do destructive things.
Yeah, it's a really bleak picture they paint.
It is. So if this is happening, who's helping him? Who are the agents of Pazuzu? Or who's keeping it quiet?
Well, the theory points to a few culprits. First, secret cults, dark occultists, groups throughout history supposedly worshipping Pazuzu, gaining power by furthering his chaotic agenda.
And infiltrating society.
That's the idea, getting into positions of influence, but it goes broader than that.
So institutions.
Yeah. The theory suggests governments, intelligence agencies, big finance, even some religious groups might be subtly influenced.
Influenced by his energy. Or actual human agents. Could be either, according to the theory. Knowingly or unknowingly perpetuating systems that generate chaos and suffering. Like a hidden hand guiding things, yeah.
And The Exorcist comes back here too, doesn't it? But not just as a movie.
Right. The theory flips it. The film's massive success wasn't an accident. It was supposedly a deliberate soft disclosure.
Soft disclosure, meaning?
A way for those in the know, or maybe even Pazuzu's influence itself, to leak the concept of this ancient evil into the mainstream.
To normalize it, get people used to the idea.
Kind of. Plant the seed, maybe make people less likely to resist if the truth ever came out fully.
Okay, so why suppress the full truth then, if there's soft disclosure?
Several reasons offered. One is just preventing mass panic. Imagine the chaos if everyone suddenly believed an ancient demon was running things.
Society could collapse.
Potentially. Also, maintaining control. Those in power, whether they're influenced or just like being in charge, might want to keep people ignorant.
Keep the status quo.
Right. It also protects established religious narratives. Mainstream religions might have a hard time incorporating a literal, active Mesopotamian demon into their theology. And maybe, just maybe, there's a fear that if humanity really understood what was going on,
We could fight back, learn to resist.
exactly, that we might figure out how to counter his influence, undermine his power. So, better to keep everyone in the dark.
Okay, so that's the shape of the conspiracy. What do proponents point to as, evidence?
It's a mix of things, often reinterpreting existing phenomena. A big one is just the sheer amount of evil and suffering in the world.
Like it's just too much to be random human awfulness.
Sort of. The relentless cycles of war, genocide, famine, oppression, despite all our progress. They see it as just too persistent, too pervasive. It must have a non-human influence, they argue. It points to Pazuzu's constant, subtle hand.
It taps into that age-old question, the problem of evil, doesn't it?
Absolutely. How can a good God allow so much suffering? Well, this theory offers a dark answer. Maybe God isn't allowing it. Maybe there's an active, malevolent force working against good. Pazuzu becomes the explanation.
Okay, I can see the appeal of having an answer, even a scary one.
Right. Then there's the focus on fear and negativity in modern society.
How so?
Think about media, politics. There's a lot of fear-mongering, division, outrage. Proponents see this not just as, bad media practices, but as a deliberate strategy.
To generate that loosh, that negative energy Pazuzu supposedly feeds on.
Exactly. It's like they're farming negative emotions, and Pazuzu's influence is behind it, subtly encouraging it.
What about more direct stuff, like possession?
Definitely. Documented cases of demonic possession, stories of exorcisms. These are taken as direct proof.
Like literal manifestations of Pazuzu or his minions.
Yeah. The extreme behaviors reported violence, blasphemy, weird physical stuff. They say it lines up perfectly with ancient descriptions of demonic influence.
And the Exorcist movie gets cited again here.
Oh yeah. It's seen as a truth bomb. Either based on a real suppressed case of demonic possession, people often point to the Roland Doe case from the Floaties.
Which the book was loosely based on, right?
Right. So either it documented something real that got covered up, or like we said, it was that deliberate soft disclosure. Either way, it's evidence to them.
What else? Anything physical?
Archaeological stuff comes up, ancient artifacts, especially those depicting Pazuzu. Sometimes there are stories about them being cursed.
Like bringing bad luck or weirdness?
Yeah, or just giving off a bad vibe. Theorists see these not just as old statues, but as potential conduits for his energy, like anchors in our world.
And what about ancient knowledge?
The idea that real knowledge about demons, about entities like Pazuzu, existed in ancient texts, grimoires, occult writings, but was suppressed.
Suppressed by who? Churches? Secret societies?
Both, according to the theory. To keep people from accidentally summoning something nasty, or maybe to keep people from learning how to fight them, that lost knowledge is seen as proof it was real and dangerous.
And finally, back to his original MO plagues and stuff.
Yeah, any sudden, really weird outbreaks of disease or inexplicable famines, things that seem to defy easy scientific explanation.
They point the finger at Pazuzu. His mythological role made literal and current.
Exactly. It's seen as him still being up to his old tricks.
Okay, so we've laid out the theory, the claims, the evidence. Now, let's pivot. What do mainstream experts, scientists, historians say? Because they obviously don't buy into a literal Pazuzu running around.
Not at all. The academic view is pretty clear.
Which is?
That Pazuzu is a mythological construct, a really interesting, complex one for sure, but a product of ancient Mesopotamian culture.
A way to understand their world.
Exactly. He represented scary natural forces, those destructive winds, disease, his weird duality, the protector thing. That's seen as symbolic.
Symbolic of what?
Of how people tried to make sense of chaos, maybe find ways to control it, or at least feel like they had some agency. Using his image wasn't an alliance, it was apotropaic magic.
Apotropaic?
Warding off evil, like using a scary mask to frighten away spirits. It was super common in ancient cultures. They weren't pals with Pazuzu, they were using his scary reputation against other threats, like Lamashtu.
Okay, so mythology and ancient cultural practice. What about the psychological angle? Why might people believe this stuff?
Well, there's some classic cognitive biases at play. Projection is a big one.
Blaming our own problems on something external.
Pretty much. Attributing human failings, social issues, personal tragedies to an outside entity like Pazuzu, it can be easier than confronting complex realities or our own darker impulses.
I get that. Easier to blame a demon than, I don't know, systemic economic issues.
Right. Then there's confirmation bias. If you already suspect demonic forces are at work, you'll tend to see evidence everywhere.
You interpret ambiguous events to fit your belief.
Exactly. Every war, every plague becomes proof, even if there are perfectly logical explanations. And related to that is pareidolia or apophenia, seeing patterns and connections where there really aren't any.
Finding significance in random events or symbols.
Our brains are pattern-matching machines. Sometimes they go into overdrive.
So how does the mainstream explain all the suffering then, if not Pazuzu?
Through sociology, history, economics, political science, war, conflict, oppression, are explained by very human factors.
Greed, power struggles, ideology, resources.
All of that. Complex, messy, but human. No need for demons to explain why people do terrible things to each other.
And disease and famine.
Ecology, agriculture, public health failures, climate change, poverty. Again, complex systems, but understandable through science and social science. Not demonic intervention.
What about the possession stories, the exorcisms? That seems harder to explain away.
Well, psychology and neurology have explanations. What gets labeled demonic possession often aligns with symptoms of known mental health conditions. Dissociative identity disorder, various forms of psychosis, sometimes even neurological issues like certain types of epilepsy. Plus, cultural beliefs play a huge role. If you believe you can be possessed, it can manifest in ways that mimic that belief. Suggestion is powerful.
And exorcism.
It's seen as a culturally specific ritual. For someone who deeply believes in possession and the power of the ritual, it can have a powerful psychological effect, like a placebo or intense psychotherapy, but it's not seen as actually casting out a literal demon.
And the Exorcist movie.
Yes.
Still just a movie.
Yep. Powerful horror fiction, hugely influential culturally. Even the Roland Doe case it was inspired by is debated. Many suggest psychological or sociological explanations for what happened there. The film's impact is artistic, not evidence of literal truth.
And the bottom line for skeptics is the lack of actual proof.
Exactly. There's simply no empirical, verifiable scientific evidence for a literal Pazuzu entity influencing events, or for Lush, or for hidden cults controlling governments in his name. It remains firmly in the realm of belief and speculation.
Okay, so I have the theory and we have the debunking. But the theory persists, it resonates. Why? Why does this idea of Pazuzu pulling the strings still grab people?
I think fundamentally it goes back to that problem of evil.
And gives an answer.
It does. In a world that often feels chaotic and senseless, full of pain, this theory provides a narrative. A dark one, sure, but a coherent one. There's an enemy. There's a reason why things are so messed up.
And maybe that's more comforting than thinking it's all just random or purely human failure.
Perhaps. It externalizes the source of evil. It can absolve humanity or God in a way. It's not our fault entirely. There's this ancient force at play.
There's also just the sheer allure of ancient evil, isn't there?
Oh, totally. It taps into something primal, the fear of the unknown, of powerful, unseen forces, monsters in the dark. It's inherently captivating, even terrifyingly so.
And Pazuzu himself, thanks to The Exorcist, is such a potent symbol now.
He really is. He's become this go-to archetype for ancient, primal, demonic terror in the West. It makes it easy to project all sorts of fears onto him. He's got name recognition, instant, ancient, scary.
It also plugs into modern distrust, doesn't it?
Big time. Skepticism towards government, media, experts, even mainstream religion is widespread. So when those institutions dismiss something like this as just myth,
the conspiracy mindset kicks in. They must be hiding something.
Exactly. The dismissal itself becomes proof for believers. It fits the pattern of cover-ups and hidden agendas.
And for people going through really hard times, personally or collectively.
This theory can offer a framework. It might not make the suffering go away, but it gives it a kind of meaning, a context. Things are bad because this powerful entity is causing it. It's an explanation, however dark.
There's also that appeal of feeling like you're in the know, right? The hidden truth idea.
Yeah, that's huge in conspiracy culture. The idea that you've woken up, you see behind the curtain, you know what's really going on while everyone else is asleep. It's empowering in its own way.
And lastly, maybe just the power of story. Especially visual stories like The Exorcist.
Absolutely. Powerful fiction can blur the lines. When something feels so real, so visceral on screen, it can make the jump to maybe it is real seem smaller, more plausible for some people.
So to wrap up, the Pazuzu, enduring influence conspiracy, basically takes this really fascinating, complex figure from ancient Mesopotamia.
King of the evil winds, sometimes protector against Lamashtu.
And transforms him into this ongoing, active, malevolent force, an interdimensional entity, maybe, subtly guiding human history towards chaos?
Spreading conflict, disease, despair, feeding on the negative energy, the louche, and his influence is supposedly covered up by powerful forces.
Mainstream scholarship, science. They see Pazuzu as important mythology, a reflection of ancient beliefs and fears. And they explain suffering through complex, but ultimately human and natural factors.
Right, psychology, sociology, history, biology. They offer explanations without needing literal demons.
Yet the Pazuzu conspiracy resonates because it offers answers to suffering, taps into those deep primal fears, and plays on our distrust of official stories. It's a powerful narrative in a confusing world.
So maybe next time you hear the wind howl, or you ponder the chaos in the world, you might think about those ancient whispers of Pazuzu.
Is he just a relic?
Yeah.
A forgotten god from a time long past? Or is there something more? A terrifying active presence still weaving threads of chaos, hidden just out of sight?
Maybe deliberately veiled by those who don't want us to know the answers. Well, they're lost in the shadows of myth and speculation, aren't they?
But that what if, that captivating, chilling what if about Pazuzu, it definitely echoes in the back of your mind, doesn't it? Down in the depths of our oldest fears.